I pull into the circular driveway of my childhood home, tires crunching over fresh snow. The 4-hour drive from Seattle has left my back stiff, but that's not why my stomach knots as I step out into the bitter December air. Christmas lights twinkle along the roofline, casting colored shadows across the unblemished white yard. So picture perfect, so deceiving. The front door stands unlocked as always. I pause in the entryway, listening to the familiar sounds of silverware clinking against china, ice cubes dropping into crystal tumblers, the low murmur of family voices. For a moment, I'm 10 years old again, breathless with holiday anticipation. "Anyone home?" I call out, unwinding my scarf. The conversation in the dining room stops. Completely. I step forward, each footfall against the hardwood floor echoing in the sudden silence. The dining room archway frames a scene that freezes my blood despite the home's abundant heat. 12 place settings gleam on the mahogany table. 12 chairs wait for bodies to fill them. 12 crystal water goblets catch the light from Mom's prized chandelier. But none of them are for me. Harlan looks up from his position near the head of the table, a half smile playing at the corners of his mouth. My older brother, 40 now but somehow still wearing the same expression he had when stealing the last cookie from the jar when we were kids. "Well, look who decided to grace us with her presence," he says, adjusting his collar. "Maybe your plate's out back with the cats." Mother doesn't even look up. Her hands move methodically among the centerpiece flowers, rearranging sprigs of pine and holly as if their precise placement might ward off the awkwardness filling the room. "Joyce," my father's sister Margaret whispers, "I thought you said—" "Not now," Mom murmurs, eyes still fixed on the flowers. And there, in what was once my chair third from the left, the one with the slight wobble Dad never got around to fixing, sits Tessa. My cousin drapes herself across it with the confidence of someone who's sat there 100 times before. She offers a thin smile that doesn't reach her eyes. "Isolde," she says, "we weren't expecting you." The words land like individual slaps. We weren't expecting you. I stand very still, aware of 12 pairs of eyes tracking my every move. Some hold pity, others curiosity, a few barely disguised satisfaction. The Christmas tree lights reflect in the window behind them, creating small explosions of color that seem to mock the cold void spreading through my chest. I reach into my purse and withdraw a small box wrapped in silver paper, no larger than my palm. The room watches as I walk to the table, my heels striking a steady rhythm against the floor. I place the package next to Harlan's plate, allowing my fingers to linger on it for just a moment. "Check under your plate," I say, my voice surprisingly steady. Harlan's smirk falters. "What?" "When you're ready to face what you've done," I say, "check under your plate." I turn without waiting for his response and walk toward the door, my back straight, my steps unhurried. No one calls after me. No one follows. The only sound is the soft rustle of my coat as I pull it back on. Outside, the snow falls harder now, large flakes drifting through the glow of the porch light. I sit in my car, knuckles white against the steering wheel, and finally allow myself to feel the full weight of their rejection. Memories flash back. I'd arrived early, hoping to help with preparations as I always had. The house stood quiet, everyone still dressing upstairs. I'd wandered into the living room, seeking the comfort of holiday traditions, and found the first sign. Above the fireplace, where 12 stockings hung in a neat row, mine was conspicuously absent. My eyes had moved to the mantel, where family photos chronicled holidays past. The frame that once held a picture of Dad and me building the backyard fence now displayed Tessa and Mom in matching Christmas sweaters. When the family descended, Mom had hugged me briefly, a perfunctory embrace nothing like the warm, lingering one she gave Tessa moments later. I'd watched, silent, as they moved around me like water flowing around a stone in a riverbed. 2 months earlier, I'd driven up unannounced, finding the house empty. Some magnetic pull had drawn me to Dad's study, preserved since his passing like a museum exhibit. The locked cabinet in the corner had called to me, and I remembered the key he'd shown me years before. "Just in case, Izzy," he'd said, hidden behind the loose brick in the fireplace. What I found inside changed everything. Last week, when I called Mom about Christmas arrangements, her voice had been distant, distracted. "Well, dear, we're doing things differently this year. Limited seating, you understand." Before I could respond, Harlan's voice broke in, the phone apparently snatched from Mom's hand. "Look, Iz, it's just easier this way. Nothing personal." Nothing personal. The same dismissal I'd heard my entire life whenever something hurt too much to name. That's when I knew. I'll be there, I'd said. Save me a seat. I'd spent the next week preparing. The small silver box. The evidence. The truth that would change everything. Now, as I start the car, I glance back at the house one last time. Through the dining room window, I can see them gathered, continuing their meal as if I'd never interrupted. As if I'd never existed. My chair stays empty, but not for long. I pull away, snow crunching beneath my tires, and drive into the darkness, leaving behind the family that had chosen to erase me and the proof that would force them to remember. And its contents. 3 days later, I hang the last Christmas card on the thin ribbon strung across my apartment window. 23 in all, from colleagues, clients, my massage therapist, even the barista who remembers my name at the corner cafe. The string sags with their weight, but holds. Outside, Seattle disappears behind a curtain of winter rain. None from family. My fingers brush against the weathered leather portfolio hidden beneath a stack of marketing briefs. 3 days since my Christmas visit, and I still haven't returned it to the safety deposit box. Some evidence should stay close. The leather still carries the faint scent of Dad's study pipe tobacco and lemon furniture polish. I unfasten the tarnished clasp, my fingers tracing the initials M.E. Marshall Elarias if touching his hand one last time. The notarized will sits on top, crisp and formal. Below it, his letter rests in its envelope, corners soft from my repeated readings. I know every word by heart, but I need to see his handwriting again, the places where the pen pressed harder, where his emotion showed through. You never asked for anything, Izzy. His familiar scrawl blurs as tears threaten. You just stayed. You protected me. This house is yours. You've earned it. I turn to the legal document with its stark, impersonal language that contradicts everything Harlan has told the family. The house in Washington. 17 acres in Idaho where Dad used to talk about building a cabin. His savings $132,000. All of it left to me, his faithful daughter Isolde Marie Ellery. A tear splashes onto the paper. I wipe it quickly, afraid of smudging his signature. Memories attack again. How slowly it happened. Harlan arriving for weekend visits after Dad's diagnosis, staying longer each time. His casual commandeering of Dad's study for important business calls. Mom yielding to his decisions with relieved sigh, happy to surrender the weight of responsibility. Harlan has always been good with money, she'd say, as if this excused everything. I remember returning from a grocery run to find Tessa wearing my old cardigan, feet propped on the ottoman where Dad and I used to play chess. Joyce said I could use it, she'd explained with a tight smile. You don't mind, do you? By the time Dad's confusion deepened, Tessa had moved into my childhood bedroom. Just temporarily, Mom assured me. It makes more sense you're not here most of the time. The worst part wasn't the clothes or the bedroom. It was the photographs. One by one, images of Dad and me disappeared from the Walsour fishing trip to Lake Wenatchee, building the gazebo, his proud smile at my college graduation. Replaced by photos where Tessa stood central, arm linked with Mom's, while Dad sat confused in the background. My phone vibrates against the coffee table. Sarah, my assistant. Tell me you're not working today, she says when I answer. Just organizing. I close the portfolio. Nothing important. Liar. Her voice softens. You found something in your dad's papers, didn't you? That's why you went up there for Christmas. In the 3 years Sarah has worked with me, she's never pushed for personal details. But she was there the day Harlan called to tell me Dad had been moved to a care facility for his own good without consulting me. They took everything, I whisper. Or tried to. Those bastards. The venom in her voice surprises me. What are you going to do? Before I can answer, another call buzzes through. Warren Clement, Dad's attorney for 30 years. Call you back, I tell Sarah. Warren's voice sounds older than I remember. Isolde, I've been trying to reach you. There's unusual activity on your father's accounts. What kind of activity? Harlan attempted to list the Idaho property with a realtor in Coeur d'Alene. They called me for verification since my name is on the deed filing. My stomach drops. Can he do that? No, but he's trying. Warren pauses. There's something else. Your mother called asking about amendments to the will. She seemed surprised when I mentioned your father's final intentions. A text notification flashes from Betty, our neighbor for 20 years. Strange trucks at the house yesterday. Moving things out. Should I be concerned? I forward it to Warren. Isolde, we need to meet. Tomorrow, if possible. The next afternoon, Warren's office smells of leather and paper, unchanged since my childhood visits with Dad. Warren slides documents across his desk. His arthritis-swollen fingers tap a paragraph highlighted in yellow. Your father amended his will 3 times in the last year of his life. Each time he was more specific about his wishes. Warren's eyes find mine. Your father knew exactly what he was doing, Isolde. Harlan sent an email to the family claiming I abandoned Dad. My voice catches. That I wasn't there when it mattered. Marshall anticipated this. Warren hands me another documenta calendar with my visits marked in Dad's shaky handwriting. Every weekend, sometimes midweek. Notes about what we ate, shows we watched, conversations we had. And this. A sealed envelope with my name. He asked me to give you this if there was ever any question about his intentions. Inside, a single photo Dad and me on his 70th birthday, rebuilding the garden bench. His arm around my shoulders, both of us laughing. On the back, his handwriting, the only one who never left. Can they fight this? I ask. Warren shakes his head. Not successfully, but they'll try. He slides a final document toward me. This secures everything legally. Your signature here makes it official. As I sign, I think of the family gathered around the Christmas table without me. They think they've won, I say, capping the pen. Warren's smile is small but fierce. They have no idea what's coming. I leave with the portfolio tucked under my arm, heavier now with additional documentation but somehow easier to carry. For the first time since Dad's diagnosis, I feel the slow burn of vindication replacing the hollow ache of betrayal. Christmas may have been their gathering, but truth will be mine. Next morning, my phone buzzes for the 3rd time this morning. Harlan again. I let it ring through to voicemail, placing it screen down on the kitchen counter while I pour another cup of coffee. The red notification light blinks accusingly through my apartment's morning shadows. When the silence returns, I press play, holding the phone away from my ear as if his voice might contaminate me. Isolde, this family has responsibilities you clearly don't understand. His voice carries that familiar patronizing tone, the one he perfected after Dad got sick. Mom's upset. Call her back so we can discuss what Dad would have wanted. I delete the message without saving it, adding it to the collection of Harlan's manipulations that have filled my voicemail over the past week. What Dad would have wanted. As if Harlan has any idea what that might be. The mail arrives with a soft thud through the slot. Christmas cards cascade onto the entryway floor, bright, festive rectangles of forced cheer. Most are from colleagues and friends. But 3 bear handwriting I recognize. Aunt Margaret, Cousin Philip, Uncle James. I open them one by one, my stomach tightening as I read. We miss you at family gatherings. Your mother says you're struggling. Sometimes we have to set aside differences for family harmony. Your father valued family above all else. Remember his example. I place them in a neat stack on the counter beside a stuffed manila envelope that arrived yesterday. More letters from relatives, each one dripping with concern and gentle reprimands, each one clearly informed by Harlan's version of events. My laptop screen glows with notifications. Tessa has posted another round of photos, her decorating the Christmas tree at my childhood home, her hand on Mom's shoulder, her sitting in Dad's favorite chair by the fireplace. The caption reads, "Carrying on the Ellery family traditions, blessed to be here, family first." The coffee turns bitter on my tongue. My phone rings again. Joyce this time. I silence it mid-ring. Not today, I whisper to the empty apartment. I grab my keys and drive across town to the storage unit I've maintained since moving to Seattle. The metal door groans as I roll it upward, revealing stacked boxes marked with Dad's careful handwriting. I navigate past college furniture and old winter clothes to the back corner where his workbench tools wait, carefully wrapped in old blankets. The hammer feels solid in my hand, its wooden handle worn smooth from years of use. I unwrap each tool slowly, the level with the slightly bubbled glass, the handplane with Dad's initials scratched into the metal, the tape measure with faded numbers. A memory surfaces, bright and immediate. I'm 14, holding boards steady while Dad measures. The backyard fence had collapsed during winter storms, and rebuilding it became our weekend project. The neighbors offered to help, but Dad refused. "This is ours, Izzy," he'd said, showing me how to level each post. Harlan had watched from the kitchen window, rolling his eyes at our dusty clothes and sunburned shoulders. "You know we could hire someone," he'd said when we finally came inside. "Normal families don't build their own fences." Dad had looked at him, something sad flickering across his face. "Some things are worth doing yourself, Harlan." Later, as we mixed concrete for the last post, Dad had placed his hammer in my small hands, closing my fingers around the handle. "It's not about who makes the most noise, Izzy," he'd said, voice low and serious. "It's about who builds things that last." Now, years later, I press my forehead against the smooth wood of the hammer handle, breathing in the faint scent of sawdust that somehow still clings to it. "I remember, Dad," I whisper. "I remember everything." I pack the tools carefully into a box and load it into my car. The weight of them feels like armor somehow, protection against the storm of texts and calls trying to pull me back into their narrative. 3 days later, I spot Tessa across the produce section at Morgan's Market. I consider abandoning my cart, avoiding the confrontation, but something stops me. Dad's voice, perhaps. "Some things are worth doing yourself." She notices me by the apples, her face arranging itself into a mask of concern so practiced it's almost convincing. "Isolde, we've all been so worried." She moves toward me, arms outstretched as if for a hug. I remain still, watching her arms slowly lower when she realizes I won't step forward to meet them. "I'm perfectly fine," I say, selecting an apple and placing it carefully in my basket. "I'm sure you've made yourself quite comfortable in my absence." Her eyes narrow slightly, the mask slipping. "You left, Isolde. We stayed. That matters." "So does the truth, Tessa." I meet her gaze directly, and it always finds its way home. She flinches, just slightly, but enough to confirm what I already know. They're afraid of what I found. Of what I know. That evening, Warren calls with updates. The paperwork is filed. Legally, they can't touch the property or accounts without triggering serious consequences. Sarah stops by with dinner and helps me organize the final pieces of evidence, photographs and bank statements spread across my dining table. "Your brother is a real piece of work," she says, slipping another document into a folder. "These withdrawals all coincided with your father's decline." Betty, my parents' neighbor for 20 years, texts me photos of strangers coming and going from the house, moving furniture I recognize. Douglas, Dad's oldest friend, leaves a voicemail recounting how often Dad spoke of me with pride. "He told me once," Douglas says, voice crackling over the line, "that you were the only one who saw him, not what he could give. Remember that, Isolde." The contrast strikes Methy's circle of support versus the blood relatives who've chosen to erase me. Next week, Tuesday, I drive to the cemetery. The ground is hard with frost, crunching beneath my boots as I make my way to Dad's grave. I place a small arrangement of holly and pine cones, things we used to gather together from the woods behind our house. "They won't erase you from my story, Dad. I promise," my breath forming clouds in the cold air. "Or me from yours." Standing there, with the winter sun breaking through bare branches, I feel a strange clarity settling over me. The hammer, the fence, the quiet lessons he imparted while Harlan was busy elsewhere, these were the real inheritance, not the house or land or money they're so desperate to claim. Back at the hotel, I prepare with methodical care. Each document copied, the most damning evidence placed in chronological order. I select the photograph that will hurt them most, Dad and me on the porch swing, his arm around my shoulders, both of us laughing at some forgotten joke. The one Harlan took and later pretended didn't exist. I choose my clothes with equal care, a simple black dress, Dad's watch on my wrist, no jewelry beyond small pearl earrings he gave me for college graduation, nothing flashy or dramatic. Nothing that suggests I'm coming for a fight. The small silver box sits on the hotel desk, waiting. Inside it, everything they fear. The truth, laid bare in Dad's own handwriting. My phone buzzes with a text from Sarah. "You don't have to do this alone." But I do. This moment belongs to me, and the promises I made at a graveside this morning. As I drive toward the house, I rehearse what I won't say, what accusations I'll swallow, what anger I'll contain. This isn't about confrontation, it's about truth. I park in the circular driveway, taking a deep breath before stepping out into the cold. Through the dining room window I can see them gathered, glasses raised in some toast I'm not part of. The front door opens silently under my hand. The family falls quiet as I appear in the doorway, the silver box tucked under my arm. Mom's face pales. Isolde, we weren't expecting, Joyce begins, voice trembling. I know, I say, my voice steady and clear in the sudden silence. But some things can't stay buried forever. I place the box on the table, all eyes following my movement. No one speaks. No one moves. And in that frozen moment, I finally understand what Dad meant about building things that last. I drive through the snow-hushed streets away from my childhood home, the taillights of my car painting the white landscape red. Lights twinkle from neighboring houses, blurring through tears I refuse to shed. Not this time. My phone buzzes on the passenger seat. Again and again. The screen lights up with notifications. Joyce, Harlan, Tessa, even Aunt Margaret. The silver box I left behind has done its work. I picture them scrambling now, the perfect dinner descending into chaos as they realize what I know. Let them burn, I whisper to the empty car. At the hotel, I place my phone face down on the nightstand without checking a single message. The evidence will speak for itself, Marshall's will. The bank statements showing my financial support during his illness, the calendar of my visits when they claimed I was absent. Truth needs no defense attorney. For the first time in months, I sleep without waking, dreamless and deep. Morning brings 37 missed calls and 22 text messages. I scroll through them while sipping coffee by the window, watching the snow blanket the parking lot below. Joyce, we were just caught off guard. Please call us. Harlan, let's meet. I think we misunderstood each other. Tessa, this isn't what you think. Followed by a sad face emoji that makes me laugh out loud. Cousins who hadn't spoken to me in months suddenly remember my existence. Uncle Robert wants to clear things up. Aunt Margaret hopes we can talk this through like adults. I don't block any of them. I simply don't respond. 3 days pass. I return to Seattle, to my apartment with its clean lines and absence of family photos. Sarah, my assistant, brings me coffee as I settle back into my office. How was the nuclear meeting? She asks, leaning against my desk. Radioactive, I answer, scrolling through work emails. You okay? I look up, consider the question. Better than I've been in years. Sarah nods, understanding without needing details. She's seen the toll this family struggle has taken. Your brother called the office 4 times yesterday. And? I told him you were unavailable indefinitely. Her smile holds no apology. The intercom buzzes an hour later. Sarah's voice comes through crisp and professional. Miss Ellery, your brother is here, without an appointment. My stomach tightens, but my voice remains steady. Tell him I'm in a meeting. 5 minutes later, Sarah appears in my doorway. He won't leave. Says it's about your father's will. I look at the family photo I keep hidden in my desk drawer, Marshall and me on the porch swing, before the dementia, before the betrayal. I slip it back inside and stand. I'll handle it. Harlan paces the reception area, his camel haircoat dusted with melting snowflakes. He looks smaller somehow, the swagger replaced with something approaching desperation. 15 minutes, Harlan, I say, not inviting him into my office. He runs a hand through his salt and pepper hair. We need to talk about Dad's will. Sarah walks past, coffee mug in hand. Without missing a beat, she says, Miss Ellery isn't available to you. Harlan's face flushes. Tell her it's about Dad's will. Sarah looks at him, then at me, her expression calm but protective. She's quite aware of her father's will, Mr. Ellery. The shift happens visibly. Harlan's shoulders sag an inch. The power has turned, like electricity suddenly flowing in the opposite direction. He came expecting to intimidate, to manipulate. Instead, he faces 2 women who see through him completely. What do you want? I ask. To explain. His voice lacks its usual authority. There were arrangements. Arrangements you made while he wasn't lucid. The words taste metallic, like blood. Arrangements that conveniently erased me. That's not. I have work to do. I turn toward my office. And you've had 2 years to explain. He leaves without another word, empty-handed and diminished. My phone buzzes with a voicemail from Joyce. Her voice breaks as she talks about family misunderstandings and healing old wounds. I delete it halfway through. Harlan's text messages evolve over days from demanding to pleading. We need to talk about this rationally. Becomes, please call me back. Becomes, I'm sorry. Betty from next door sends a photo. Tessa loading suitcases into her car, moving her things out of my bedroom, the room that was mine long before she claimed it. Family friends start calling me directly, not through Harlan as they've done for months. Their voices hold questions they don't quite ask. The truth ripples outward, reshaping perceptions, correcting the narrative Harlan so carefully constructed. I draft an email at Sarah's desk, her reassuring presence beside me. The message is simple. Copies of the will attached. A brief explanation of Marshall's intentions. No accusations or drama. I send it to the extended family with one click. "Are you sure?" Sarah asks. I nod. Truth doesn't need embellishment. The next day, I make a public donation to the dementia care facility where Marshall spent his final weeks. The amount matches exactly what he left me in savings, $132,000. I list it in his name, with a note about dignity in memory care. My phone rings less frequently now. The messages turn respectful, even contrite. Joyce sends a photo. The family portrait with me and Marshall back on the mantle, restored to its place after months of absence. I don't respond. Some silences speak volumes. A week later, I arrive 15 minutes early to Cliffside, a restaurant perched on the edge of Lake Washington, where my family has requested this neutral meeting. The hostess leads me to a private room in the back, where floor-to-ceiling windows frame snow-dusted evergreens and slate-gray water. The table is already set for 4. Perfect. Warren won't be expected. I take the seat facing the door and place my leather portfolio on the table. Inside rest the pieces of a puzzle my family never expected me to solve. My fingertips trace the worn edges of my father's voice recorder, a simple device that will shatter their carefully constructed narrative. The door swings open. Mother enters first, her face a careful mask of maternal concern. Harlan follows, his shoulders squared in that boardroom posture he's perfected over the years. Tessa trails behind them, already looking for the quickest exit. "Isolde." Mother attempts a tremulous smile. "Thank you for coming." I gesture toward the empty chairs without rising. "Please, sit." They arrange themselves opposite me, a unified front. The waitress appears with water, but I wave away menus. "Just coffee for now." "We should order," Harlan says, the slight twitch in his jaw betraying his irritation. "This might take a while." "It won't," I reply. Mother reaches across the table, her manicured fingers stopping just short of mine. "Darling, we've had time to think about everything. About what your father really wanted for all of us." "Have you?" My voice remains level. Harlan leans forward, his expression shifting to what he probably believes is compassionate understanding. "Look, estate matters are complicated. Dad had good intentions, but he wasn't thinking clearly toward the end." "Wasn't he?" "You know he wasn't," Tessa interjects, her voice honey-sweet. "Marshall made promises to me too, to all of us." Mother dabs at the corner of her eye with a monogrammed handkerchief. "You abandoned us when we needed you most, Isolde." Your father was confused. Harlan steeples his fingers. "We're prepared to contest the will. Do you really want to drag the family through that kind of public spectacle?" "Your emotional state after Dad died," Mother begins. "Was perfectly sound," I interrupt, placing the small voice recorder on the table. "As was his." I press play. My father's voice fills the room, clear and steady. "Warren, I need to be explicit about my wishes. Isolde will inherit everything: the house, the Idaho property, and my savings. Harlan's been trying to change the paperwork, but I'm telling you now with full clarity of mind, this is what I want." A pause, then my father's laugh so familiar it makes my chest ache. "Harlan thinks I don't notice what he's doing, taking credit for the money Isolde sends, keeping her messages from me, but I see it all. She's the only one who stayed when it mattered, Warren. The only one." The recorder continues, but their faces tell me they've heard enough. Mother's carefully constructed facade crumbles, real tears replacing the performative ones. Harlan's face drains of color. The door opens behind them. Warren steps in, carrying a thick folder. Their heads whip around in unison. "Perfect timing," I say. Warren places the folder before me and takes the empty chair at my side. I slide out the first document: bank statements showing regular transfers from my account to my father's care facility, each one followed by Harlan's emails to relatives taking credit. Next, we have my calendar. I continue, pulling out a color-coded schedule. Every highlighted day represents a visit to Dad during his final year. 142 visits, to be exact. How many did you make, Harlan? His mouth opens, closes. I remove a letter with official letterhead. This is from Dr. Kessler, confirming Dad's mental competence when he revised his will. Another document joins the growing pile. And these are photos of me at Dad's bedside while the rest of you were. Where exactly? Tessa, wasn't this around the time you were posting beach photos from San Diego? Tessa pushes back her chair and stands. I don't have to listen to this. Actually, you do, Warren says quietly. Since you've been living in a house you have no legal right to occupy. She leaves without another word. Mother collapses into genuine sobs now, her shoulders shaking. Harlan's desperation fills his eyes as he leans forward. We can split it fairly, 50-50. That's reasonable, isn't it? I gather the documents back into my portfolio. This isn't about money, Harlan. It never was. Then what do you want, he demands. Nothing you can give me now. I stand, suddenly towering over them. The power shift is palpable, like gravity reversing. Dad knew who stayed when it mattered. I say, my voice surprisingly steady. He knew who was there to hold his hand, to remind him of his stories when he started forgetting them himself. Mother reaches for my hand. Isolde, please. I withdraw gently but firmly from her grasp. I'm not erasing you. That was your choice for me. The portfolio tucked under my arm feels lighter than when I arrived. I walk toward the door, my steps unhurried. No one follows me. No one calls my name. Outside, snow has begun to fall again, delicate flakes catching in my hair. I take a deep breath of sharp winter air, feeling it cut through the heaviness in my chest. In the car, I place my hand on the small velvet box on the passenger seat. Inside rests the final revelation I chose not to share today: papers establishing a family trust in Marshall's name, ensuring my mother will never want for care herself. Some truths aren't weapons. Some are simply seeds, waiting for the right season to grow. I start the engine and drive away from the restaurant, from the family that chose to write me out of their story. This time, I'm the one holding the pen. I place Marshall's faded holly mug at the empty chair, my fingers lingering on its chipped handle. 6 months have passed since I walked out of that perfect Christmas nightmare, and the world hasn't ended. If anything, it's expanded. Morning light spills across my Seattle apartment, catching the brass edge of Dad's photograph. Not the formal portrait Mom insisted we use at the funeral, but the candid one Betty sent me. Dad in his workshop, hammer raised mid-swing, laughing at something I'd said off camera. My phone buzzes with a text from Joyce. Can we meet? Just once. Please. I set it aside without answering. Not a rejection, just a postponement. Some conversations require perfect timing. The drive to what is now legally my childhood home takes exactly 4 hours and 17 minutes. I know because I've made the trip 12 times since winter, each visit easier than the last. The house no longer looms like an accusation. Today, it waits like a canvas. The memory oasis, I say aloud, testing the name on my tongue. Warren's paperwork for the respite center sits completed on the passenger seat. Marshall's savings saw $132,000 diverted to dementia research rather than Harlan's boat fund. I walk through rooms that once trapped decades of perfect performances, my heels striking confident rhythms against hardwood that belongs to me. In the kitchen, I run my hand along countertops where Joyce orchestrated holiday meals with military precision. My phone chimes with a message from Betty. Found something you should see. The attachment opens to reveal a photograph I thought lost forever. Dad and me at 14, covered in sawdust, grinning beside the newly completed fence. What catches my breath isn't the image itself, but where Betty found it, not in the family album, but thumbtacked above Dad's workbench in the tool shed, the one place no one bothered to sanitize after he died. The one place he kept what truly mattered. Evening finds me in my new garden, surrounded by my chosen family. Sarah tops off wine glasses while Warren discusses the nature sanctuary plans for the Idaho acreage. Betty and Douglas raise their glasses as I place Dad's hammer in the center of the table. To building things that last, Douglas says. Across town, a young woman named Claire meets me for coffee weekly, her eyes slowly losing the haunted look they held when she first described her family's campaign of erasure. Your worth isn't measured by their recognition, I tell her, echoing Dad's wisdom. 1 year later, Christmas lights twinkle against fresh snow as I set the table with Dad's collection of mismatched ornaments. No perfect centerpiece, No color-coordinated place settings. Just chairs filled with people who choose to be here. Joyce pauses in the doorway, uncertainty etched in new lines around her eyes. Your place is there, I say, pointing to the chair I've saved for her. Not forgiveness exactly, but possibility. As I take my seat at the head of the table, I realize the true inheritance wasn't property or money. It was the proof I was always enough, even when they tried to write me out of their story. I raise my glass toward Dad's empty chair, his holly mug catching the light. Some things can never be erased.